Hello, so today we are going to draw a shoe for my beginning drawing students in Art 1. We talked in class about drawing big shapes first or big things and then working your way to the smaller details. So the first thing I'm going to do is just draw a general outline, a general contour of the shoe, and then I'm going to use my fingers and my pencil to do a little bit of measuring for proportion. So I'm measuring how tall the shoe is compared to how long the shoe is in real life, and then using that ratio to my paper. And my ratio on my paper was a little bit big, so I shortened the height a little bit and erased the line after I had replaced it with the new one. And now I'm going to go and draw just a little bit more specific of an outline. I'm really studying the shoe in front of me, the curves and the wrinkles, and the shape. I like to start with the sole of the shoe because it has nice, like, gentle curves. Where it sits on the table, it's typically curved up where your arch is, and then sometimes, like in this shoe, where it meets the shoe, it's a little bit more flat. So they're not exactly parallel lines, but they do curve around the shoe, and that's important to note. They're not flat lines, they're curved lines. Here's that little tag in the back. Noticed a minute ago I used my pencil to look at the angle of the shoelaces. And then what we are drawing is three-dimensional, so we need to be able to see the back of the shoe as well as the front of the shoe, and that's a big key in our space and our perspective, because we can see inside of the shoe just slightly. I'm going to continue drawing the shoe, and you can fast forward or watch it in regular speed, whatever you want. But this takes me in real life maybe about 15 minutes. And I do want to remind you that I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. And that's the reason why I can do it in 15 minutes. And if you're just starting out, it should take you a long time to draw like this because you haven't had as much practice. And you know what I always say, it's all about practice. You only get good at something by doing it over and over and over again. So take your time, slow down, really study the shoe, and draw what you see, not what you think you see. I will come back and talk a little bit more again once I start shading. Okay? Okay, now it is time to shade, and I'm going to do this entire shoe with one pencil, my HB pencil. I personally think that it gets some really good lights and some really good darks, and we don't need to complicate things by moving around with our pencils. I will show you in later lessons how to use the other pencils, and you're always welcome to experiment with that on your own as well. You've got 3 various pencils in your art kit. But our HB is kind of the middle of the road. And so notice where I'm holding my pencil for shading. I'm holding it way back where the eraser might be. I'm not applying hardly any pressure. I'm letting the weight of the pencil be enough to apply just the lightest value. And I'm going over everything. So this value is going to be my lightest tone or my lightest shade in this drawing. I'm also using the side of my lead, not the tip of my lead, but I'm careful not to use the side of the wood part. So my pencil is elevated slightly. It's probably at like a maybe 20-degree angle from the paper. It's not laying down flat on the paper, but it's not up on its tip. When you move it up on its tip, it's hard to blend your values without using a tortillon or your finger. And if you know anything about my class, we don't use either one of those. We really focus on learning controlling our pencil to blend our values where it is necessary. So here I am just going over everything. The only thing I'm actually not giving this light value to is the shoelaces. And the reason for that is because they are stark, stark white. Even way whiter than the sole of the shoe from this vantage point, from this perspective. So I'm going to leave those alone just for a little while. I'll come back to them later. And I'm almost done with my first layer. After this first layer, I'm going to start focusing on some of those darker shadows. And now that I've got a layer of value on the shoe, it's going to be easier to blend and kind of hop around. And so I'm going to just apply a little bit of pressure and build these shadows up slowly. Remember that everywhere you see a line or everywhere you are perceiving a line is telling you that there's a shadow or a value change on one side or the other of that line. So really look closely for your shadows. Even if you have an all black shoe, there are shadows and highlights. Even if you have an all white shoe, there are shadows and highlights. Sometimes you just have to look a little bit harder for them, but they're there. Promise. Trust me. So here I am. I've kind of blocked in the shadow on the inside. And now I'm blocking these really specific wrinkle shadows. But I'm trying to blend all of these like out. They all should be a gradient on one side or the other. So if the line is telling you there's an abrupt change in value right there, it gradiates out on the other side of that line. There's just a change and then a gradation. So again, I am going to let you watch this video at your own pace. The rest of it is just me looking for those shadows, applying some value, and gradiating that shadow out into the tone of the rest of the shoe. Again, I only use my HB pencil. I think that you can get great scales with just the one. And I do also want to mention, when I was drawing it, one of the key things with drawing shoelaces, which is something that can really trip people up, is that they have to extend past the outline of the shoe. They're thick, they have mass. Even this one, which is actually kind of flat, has to come up and over that other side. And so in order to look like it's doing that on paper, it has to break that edge. It has to, so wherever you've drawn the edge of the shoelace has to go slightly above it. And then my other little trick, especially for flat shoelaces like this, is I kind of give it a little dip in the center. So it looks like it's kind of wrinkled, but it goes up over the edge of that back side, and then there's a little dip in it, and I will emphasize that with shadow later. Okay? You can comment any questions that you have. Other than that, enjoy. Hopefully your observational drawing are successful. Thanks.